Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today for our webinar on Red Flag Day, Rogue Employee Reporting. So today we're going to be talking about a few modules and features within Laserfiche. So first of which will be Audit Trail. I'm going to talk through the licensing and all of the things that Audit Trail tracks and things that you should know and things like that. And then we're going to jump into security tags and how you can use those to set permissions on individual documents. And then from there, we'll flow right into watermarks and all the different types of watermarks that you can use within your Laserfiche system. A few housekeeping items as we get started. So participants will be muted throughout the duration of the presentation, but if you have questions at any point, feel free to put them in the questions box. I will be addressing questions at the end. And then slides and screenshots are available upon request, so feel free to just put something in the questions box and we can go ahead and reach out and provide you those slides after the fact. And then this webinar will be recorded and it will be available on our YouTube site within the next couple of days, so you can always share it with your friends at that point. So as we dive in, we're going to talk about Audit Trail and why it's important and some of the different benefits and features that it extends. So on the screen, you're going to see the Google definition of what Audit Trail is, but I more so like to describe it as an eagle eye that tracks everything that happens to a document once it enters your repository. Audit Trail is tracking who did what and when. This includes things like who and when the document was added into the repository, or when it was deleted, or when metadata fields were updated, things like that. Audit Trail really provides you transparency on what's happening throughout your repository. So Audit Trail comes in 3 different versions. So depending on the platform that you are on, chances are some version of Audit Trail is bundled in. So if you have a subscription-based platform of Laserfiche, like self-hosted subscription or Laserfiche Cloud, you get set up with Starter right out of the box. Or if you have a Laserfiche Rio system, again, that's bundled in right out of the box. If you're on an older platform of Laserfiche, such as Avante or United, typically Audit Trail would be an add-on to those modules or to those platforms. So Starter Audit Trail provides the transparency that most organizations need for tracking who's doing what within the repository once the documents are added. But some organizations are bound by federal regulations which require more transparency. So for organizations that are bound by the Department of Defense 5015.2 requirements, in order for those Laserfiche systems to be in compliance with the regulation, advanced Audit Trail and Laserfiche records management are required. Those 2 modules together are what makes the system DoD compliant. So the way I present the different versions are: Starter Audit Trail tracks what happens to the files after they're brought into the system. Advanced Audit Trail provides more administrative happenings, like if permissions were changed on a document or a user added a new metadata field. Those would be things that are tracked with Advanced Audit Trail. So at the top of this slide, I have included the list for the audit events within Laserfiche Cloud. I just wanted to showcase that there's over 100 different events that can be audited. So you can go ahead and navigate to that if you'd like. There is this same link for self-hosted versions, which I can include separately if that's something that you are interested in. Again, just put some notes in the questions and I can reach out from there. But additionally, for both cloud and self-hosted, there are a few auditing options that aren't turned on automatically. The reason is because these actions can cause the audit logs to bloat and get huge, which in turn takes up a lot of server space. So it's recommended that they be used sparingly. So only if you have a need to audit, or you've got that rogue employee who you want to keep closer tabs on, then you can adjust the auditing. So in this first screenshot here, we can see that a majority of these items are checked out of the box, but things like viewing the events for searches or sessions or viewing content, these are things that are not on out of the box. And so what I mean by that is, for viewing content, think about how many documents you are accessing regularly within Laserfiche. Every time you click and open one of those documents, it creates a line in the audit log. So if you are going through, 100 different documents per day, every single one of those is an audit log. And then, multiply that out by however many users you have within your organization, and you can see how auditing that and keeping track of that would really add up quickly. So again, those are items that you can run searches on. If you do kind of retroactively after the fact add those on, it will start tracking those actions going forward. So from the day you turned it on going forward, it cannot go back and provide you, users search history back in the past because it hadn't been auditing those. You can also designate specific reasons that users might select when they initiate certain events within the repository, and then these reasons become auditable actions. So an organization might be wondering why users delete files from the system, or maybe why files are getting exported. With the never-ending cybersecurity threats, it might be nice to understand why your users are exporting files from the system. If it's important enough to store it in your Laserfiche system, it's probably important enough to know why users are exporting the files from your system. So once I jump into the demo, I'll show you where you can add these audit reasons to your documents. So let's take a look at where we can build audit reports within Laserfiche Cloud. And then we'll talk about watermarks and the tags and everything later. So something I do want to call out is that the demonstrations that I'll be doing today are in my Laserfiche Cloud environment. And if you are in a self-hosted environment, the actions for auditing are fairly similar. You just have to navigate to a different area to get access to build those reports. So again, this is the audit events class list that I had mentioned earlier. And as you can see, there are a ton of different actions that are auditable for you. But let's jump into the repository. So again, I'm here just in my Laserfiche Cloud repository, and I want to go ahead and navigate to audit reports. So auditing and getting access to audit reports is security specific. So if you don't have access to see this in your cloud repository in your navigation menu, it's something you could ask IT about. Otherwise, if you have access, you can definitely follow along. So we'll go into audit reports. And then right out of the box, Laserfiche has pre-configured reports that you can easily run to see deletions or failed logins. So somebody trying to log into the system that, mistyped their password or didn't multi-factor authenticate or whatever it is. Or even page creation. So who's adding new content into the system and when. But we're going to start out and generate a new report first. So again, if you are on a self-hosted environment, the configuration of building these reports or the user interface is very similar. This just has the cloud kind of fresh look and feel. But once you log into Audit Trail, it's the same. So if you have saved reports, you would be able to access those here. you would be able to select the repository that you want to run reporting against. So if you are in a cloud environment, you do have the ability to add additional repositories now if you didn't know that. But if you're on a self-hosted system and you're on Rio or something, you do have the ability to run audit reports from any of your repositories that you might have access to. So you can select a date range. We're going to go for the last 30 days. You can identify which users or specific users you want to run audit reports on. So if maybe you have an employee who has been troublesome, or you heard threats that, you know, they were going to delete everything in Laserfiche, you could run it on specific users. And then you can also run audit reports on specific entry IDs. So this is the unique ID for either a folder or a document that gets added into the repository. And then you can add specific event types. So we will do a metadata search. So we're going to search for metadata changes. So if somebody added a template field, they changed rights, they created a field, created a template, I want to know who's doing that within our repository and within the last 30 days. So all users making metadata changes within my system. So from there, I can go ahead and I didn't even have to click apply actually, because it just sorted out the event log for us. So now we can see here all the different, well, actually, I do think I have to click apply. Yep, so I did have to click apply. So now we can see all of the different modified fields, created the template, who did it, what resource they used, the request data, the changes, whether it was successful or not. So these column headers up here, just like the Laserfiche client or web client, you have the ability to customize and change. So you could add, you know, any number of fields or reorder them by dragging and dropping, you know, whatever makes the most sense for you in the report that you're generated. And then from here, we can go ahead and download these results if we wanted by just selecting the download button, or we could go ahead and print them to a printer. But one of the neat things I think that Audit Trail extends is the ability to not only see this in kind of like Excel format, or table format, but you can change it to a graph if you wanted. So we can do a line graph. It's going to ask us what we want to report on. So we'll do the event time grouped by day. So then this is going to give us a line graph for when these changes took place in our repository. So we can see back on 5/27, we had a lot of metadata changes. And then again on 6/4, we had a few, but in between then there was nothing. So you can do line graphs, or you can even do a bar graph if preferred. And then you can change your dimension and grouped by criteria as desired. So you could go by hour, by day, by week. So whatever you need to display the audit results that you're looking for. All right, so let's take a look at how to do those audit reasons, or those adding reasons for when documents are getting exported from the system. So again, this is something you can do in a self-hosted environment as well, but in cloud, we're going to go to our navigation icon. We're going to go to repository administration. I'm not going to save my report. And then we're just going to take a look at our everyone group. And then first things first, I want to call out. So if you wanted Laserfiche to be auditing search history or the view content history, you would come in here to your everyone group and check those boxes, and then you can go ahead and click save. Additionally, that's where the reasons are. So you can select one and you can add delete reasons, you know, PII information. So that's why we're deleting it. Or we can say this is getting deleted because we wanted to. And then if we save it from there, now when a user tries to delete something, it will automatically pop up and say, why are you trying to delete this? And then from there, they would have to select a reason. And then at that point, you would also be able to run audit reports on what reasons were selected. So you can really easily see, hey, we're having a lot of content deleted from our system because of PII information, versus we just wanted to. Or if you have users selecting we wanted to, you could then, take formal action on, you can't just delete things because you want to. All right, so now we're going to jump back into our PowerPoint and we're going to take or start talking about security tags. So security tags in Laserfiche also aid in your overall compliance. So a security tag is just a type of metadata that you can apply to an individual document to apply security to that file. So I like to use the example of HR. You have a large HR team who has access to view all of the employee files within the repository. But maybe somebody from staff complains about one of the HR team members. So all of HR has access to view all of the employee files, but you want to have that complaint kept private from the other HR team members so that they're not seeing, people are complaining. So what you can do is create a security tag and apply a tag to that document stored in your complaint folder so that only the appropriate HR team members will even know that that document exists in the repository. So instead of needing to create a separate folder away from staff and applying permissions to that folder, you keep it where you would expect it to be, where you would store any other complaint, but apply a security tag to it to limit who should have access to it. So security tags provide absolute security, meaning if a user lacks permissions to the tagged entry, it's hidden from them regardless of their other access rights that they possess. So you could have people set up as administrators in Laserfiche, but you could have a security tag set up where administrators are exempt from rights. And so even though they're admins in your Laserfiche system, they still don't have access to see the documents that are tagged. So tags are what allow you to do document-based security. So when I was talking to the consulting team about security tags and kind of learning some of the information for myself, one thing they really wanted me to call out, which is why this screen is so aggressive, is a security tag is when applied is based specifically on either the folder or the document that you apply it to. So if you apply a security tag to a folder, it's not automatically going to extend the security from that tag to the documents within that folder. You would have to apply the security tag to each individual document within that repository or within that folder to have those permissions carry through. So you can, in Laserfiche, you can highlight, select all, and then kind of do the right-click properties and adjust and apply the meta tag in bulk. But just remember, if you're using security tags, you can't apply it to the folder and have that carry through to the documents. You have to apply it to both the folder and the documents. So let's dig into how to create a metadata tag and go from there. So let's open up my repository again. So we're already in our repository administration area, but now we're going to navigate to metadata, and then we're going to navigate to tags. So if you're in a self-hosted environment, this would be done within the Laserfiche administration console, which would typically reside on your Laserfiche server. So if you're not sure where that is, you're probably going to have to consult your IT department, and then they can get you access or help you create a security tag if necessary. But within cloud, we're going to go ahead and just click add over here. And so we're going to call it red flag. Testing the security. And then indicating here that it's security tag. Additionally, with tags, whether it's security tagged or more of an informationally based tag, you can apply watermarks to those. And so you can have specific text applied if you wanted, and then you can adjust the positioning of that watermark by kind of dragging and dropping the square, or changing the angle if you wanted. Whatever feels right to you. So we're going to go ahead and click OK and save this new tag. So we can say we've got a new tag here. But when you create a tag, this isn't enough. Like, this is just the first step in making this a security tag. And so the next step is applying certain users access to see this new tag that we've created. So then we're going to jump into our users area, and we can search for the user or the group, because tags can be optionally applied to groups. So if we go into our sales group, we can apply a security tag if we want to that. So we'll just click edit, and then we'll search for our red flag, and then we'll save it. So now this security tag is applied to anybody who is a part of the sales group. And then any documents that have this security tag applied are viewable from anybody in the sales group, but nobody in any of these other groups within our system, unless we apply the tag to a specific individual as well. So I'm going to go ahead and just apply it to myself so you can see what that kind of looks like. We're just going to find me, and then we'll click edit again and apply our red flag tag. Click save. So now if we go back to our repository, we can find a document somewhere in our repository. I'm just going to go into a random area where I know we've got documents. And once I have a document selected, I can see the details pane, and then I would be able to add the tag to this. So these are all the tags I have access to. Okay. In some instances, when you are doing configurations within Laserfiche Cloud, like creating new tags, in order for them to show up and be available for you to apply, you have to log out. So I'm going to log out and then sign back in. Discard. So I'm going to sign back in. I have multi-factor authentication set up in my cloud account. So I'm just navigating to my authentication app, getting my number. And now I'm logged in. So now we should be able to go in and apply that tag to our document. There it is, red flag. Done. And so now any users who, again, are not part of the group and not myself would not have access to see this document in this kind of community folder, incoming scans. Only the appropriate users would. All right, if we jump back into our PowerPoint, the next order of business is talking about watermarks. So I have already shown you how to apply a watermark to a tag or a security tag. So when you're configuring your tags, you can apply a watermark. You can also do group watermarks or optional watermarks. So if you're not familiar with watermarks, it is just allowing you to apply text on top of a document that's either informationally based or just kind of like a warning. And so some organizations, when exporting content from their Laserfiche system, want to have like, hey, this is a sample, or this is related to case file XYZ, or if you're an education service district, maybe this is in relation to XYZ school. So watermarks can be used, in a lot of different ways. It just kind of depends on what your organization requires. Additionally, when you're configuring your watermarks, you can use tokened information. And so you can have the watermark include like which user is exporting it and the date and time that they exported it, so that there's a date timestamp on the document that got exported. And so a group watermark, again, would get assigned to the group. And then when you have a group watermark created, when they are looking in the Laserfiche repository, if a document qualifies for that group watermark, you'd be able to see that in the document viewer pane in the repository, in addition to when you fully export it out of the system. And then optional watermarks are configured on a user by user basis, and it allows users to selectively choose that they want to apply a watermark when they're exporting a document from the system, if it's not something that's by default required of them. So to configure watermarks, let's jump back into our repository. So we're going to start with the optional watermarks. And so again, if you are in a self-hosted system, this would be going into your toolbar and then going into options, and then you would be configuring your own personal settings. In cloud, you just navigate to your name up at the top and then select options. And then we will go to the download section, and then we have optional watermarks. So by default, this is not selected, but when you have watermarks that you want to optionally apply, you would then apply when downloading, and no other watermarks are present. So by default, it would automatically apply those watermarks that you've created. But you could easily click add, and then again, you have the same kind of configuration options where you can choose where you want it to show, what angle, and then how big it is. So you can have it span across the entire page if you want. So that's an optional watermark. Again, that's configured in your user options and is specific to each individual user. Let's configure now a universal watermark. So in our cloud repository, let's go back. And then we're going to go to our navigation icon, and we're going to go back into repository administration. Then we're going to go to our everyone group. So this means if I create a watermark in our everyone group, regardless of which permissions or group permissions are applied to each individual user, a watermark will get applied to documents that they are exporting from the system. So I'm going to go ahead and click edit, and we're going to add a new watermark. Everyone group. So it's actually, I think we might have to configure it in a slightly different area. Configure. Bear with me. One moment here. testing, save. So we'll try this. So when, again, you're creating a watermark, you're going to have to sign in and sign out once more. I'm just going to X out of my extra window, and then we're going to sign out. Sign in. In a self-hosted environment, when you're configuring certain items and you want them to be, those items to be available to your end users, a lot of times those users will have to log out and log back in for those changes to be in effect. So very similar to a cloud versus self-hosted when configuring those certain items. So let's see if it works appropriately. We're going to go ahead and just download a copy of this document, and then hopefully our watermark will be applied. We're going to go ahead and click download. Okay, so it did apply, but it didn't give me the usual configuration options like we had seen when we were configuring those other ones. Sometimes the Laserfiche cloud environment can be a little bit finicky, but at least it worked. So now we can see kind of in gray here across our page is our testing watermark. And I did include token information for today's date and the user that went ahead and exported it. So now the same watermarks can be applied whether you're downloading the document or whether you're printing the document or even if you're emailing it. If you have a Laserfiche cloud environment and you're doing direct share, the watermark would automatically carry through any of those export options. So it's important to note. All right, so now we're going to jump back in. And I'm going to open it up for questions. So I think we had a couple come through. Breezed through that pretty quickly, but again, we went through Audit Trail and how you can build a custom report and how you can turn on some of the event criteria if you want to have those trackable. We also talked about security tags and how to create a security tag and where you can apply them. And then finally, we took a look at watermarks and the 3 different options for configuring watermarks. So if there aren't any specific questions, then I just want to leave you again, as usual, with some of our helpful resources. So there is lots of additional information on tags and watermarks on our website and through our blog, and fiche tips through our website. So definitely go ahead and check those out. Always check out our YouTube for any of our previously recorded webinars. The fiche tips blog, again, here's a link to that, as well as our CDI newsletter. So we had a question come in: who can add a security tag to a user or a group? That would have to be an administrator. So somebody with administrative privileges to create new users and adjust permissions would have the ability to create a new security tag within the system, and then whoever has been granted access to that security tag would have the ability to apply that security tag to the files. Additionally, you can have tags applied as part of a workflow process. So if you have documents coming in and, you know, maybe every single HR W-4 document you want to have applied with the particular security tag, you can build that into your workflow process as well. All right, and then here are some Laserfiche resources. Always check out the Solution blog or Solution Exchange to see what other organizations are doing within their Laserfiche system. You can sign up for Laserfiche Aspire or CPP trainings. And with that, we'll finish up early. If you need anything else, don't hesitate to reach out or call in, and we'll help you with whatever your needs are. Thanks, everyone.